Um, so welcome to our November etc. talk. So this is our series of artist talks at Draw Brighton that we run in order to enrich our kind of wider educational program. So we run life drawing sessions and portrait sessions online and in person, but we like to speak to practicing artists and arts professionals to find out a little bit more about their work, about the journey that they've taken, perhaps throughout the development of their practice, and about what they've got coming up as well. And we're really lucky to have had an amazing program of past speakers join us. All of those sessions are recorded and they're put up on our YouTube, free to everybody. But this is funded by the Draw Patreon. So thank you to all of our paying Patreon supporters that fund these talks so that we can make them available to everybody. Today we're joined by the artist Morag Caister, and this is as part of our autumn programme. We're going to have continuing talks throughout the year with at least one a month. So Morag is a British artist best known for her expressive figure painting. She graduated with a BA in painting from Brighton University, our hometown, in 2019 and gained national recognition in 2022 when she won Sky Arts Portrait Artist of the Year. I know some of you will know her from that, which culminated in a commission to paint the British icon Sir Lenny Henry. She was also featured in Forbes 30 under 30 list for arts and culture in Europe, and was named in the Evening Standard's 2023 Art Power list. Morag's exhibited widely, and her work has been featured in the National Portrait Gallery, Glyndebourne and Soho House collections, and she's also been a finalist in several awards, including the Ruth Borchard Self-Portrait Prize, the Herbert Freehills Portrait Award, and the Curators EROS Project Award. In 2024, she also presented her solo exhibition Peacetime at Rhodes Gallery in London, which is the gallery that represents her there, continuing her exploration of human nature and connection. And I hope that we're going to be able to hear a little bit more about some of the past development of your work, Morag, and present. But I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining us. Do you mind if I pop you on Spotlight for a moment to say hello?
Yes.
Hey,
Hello.
thank you so much for coming to do this talk tonight.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's a real pleasure.
um, Now, should we launch straight into the images of your work, or did you want to chat like this for a moment? What works best for you?
Oh, I I don't mind. Maybe straight into the works
Fabulous.
might make sense. Yeah.
In that case, I'm going to just do a little share screen in a second, so hopefully everyone should be able to see Morag's work in just a moment coming up on the screen. How's that showing for everyone? Is that okay for you, Morag?
Mhm.
Wonderful. So tell me, why did you choose these three paintings as your opening slide?
Well, I just thought because the idea was to kind of talk about things since graduating to
Mhm.
now. Um, and a big part of me actually really did not want to include these, um, because they were from so long ago, and I feel like my work's changed a lot since then. And I was making these when I was really just trying to figure out, how to make a portrait and what a portrait should be, like how it should feel. And I was still, couldn't quite find my like the kind of medium that I wanted to work with. So I was really confused at this point, actually. I was using like oil paint and soft pastel and oil pastel on like unprimed calico instead of canvas. It
Okay.
was just like actually quite a confusing time, but quite necessary. So yeah, I guess these were the first portraits that I sort of felt were going in a kind of I don't know, a direction that made sense.
And did you know that you wanted primarily to be focusing on portrait painting, on making portraits at this stage?
I mean, I think so. I had basic, yeah, I always had this, yeah, like the kind of urge to paint people. And I guess I, I don't know, I tried to maybe suppress that urge and like turn it into other things. Um, and to just expect, just to kind of see what else there was to sort of focus on. Um, and at uni, it wasn't really, well, a few years ago, like, making portraits wasn't, figurative work has come back in such a big way, but it wasn't the case when I was at uni. And
Mhm.
so yeah, I guess I wanted to listen to what my tutors were saying and like take it seriously and like use that time to just, yeah, explore other stuff. But I ultimately would always come back to wanting to paint portraits. And yeah, so yeah, in answer to your question, yeah, I always liked painting people ever since I was little.
Mhm. Do you think it's a problem that that universities haven't focused on figure-based work perhaps in recent decades, and maybe sort of behind the current thrust of fine art painting?
Hmm. Oh, I mean, I don't know. I guess it makes sense that everything kind of has its time and its place.
Mhm.
Um, it is not that great for people who like paint, or it wasn't that great for people who like to paint figuratively, or even more, maybe more just like kind of portrait-based stuff. Um, it was maybe quite difficult to sort of feel needed or relevant, or like just what you were doing was something that was sane and made sense.
Mhm.
Um, but I mean, yeah, it wasn't actually easy and it did feel quite lonely. Um, but like I said, yeah, I think it just makes sense for things to have their time and place. And I guess trying to sort of I don't know, I don't know. It's a tricky one. I guess there are like two sides to it.
Mhm.
What do you think?
Oh, I think it's exciting to see, having always been interested in people and painting and drawing and the technical processes that allow us to represent the varied experience of looking at another person and being a person witnessing somebody else. Like, I think that's
Mm.
always been a real interest for me. But then I've also been conscious that um when I was younger, I think I was quite blinkered and I was only really interested in painting people. And I think now my taste in painting is much broader. So I completely see the value um, in an art education that forces you outside of a comfort zone, and sort of encourages you to look more widely at things that you might not already be drawn to. But at the same time, I love to see really great painting, which is why it's such a treat to have your work here today. And it would be great to see, uh, figurative painting nurtured in university contexts, as I think it often is. So, yeah, I think it's always going to be the case, isn't it, that educational institutions sort of follow the trend of what's happening outside of the institution, and
Yeah.
therefore are always a little bit behind it as well. But I think
Mm.
that's the nature of education as much as anything.
It's just how it goes. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So with these three paintings, like, do you think these are emblematic of you finding your way with portraiture, those sort of early stages?
I think so. Yeah, that's how it felt anyway at the time. And I remember it was this first one on the left, which is of Genti, my husband. And I remember it was lockdown, and so I was sort of didn't really have access to anyone else. And I had also been like quite nervous about approaching portraits from life because that's kind of always instinctively what I wanted to do. But
Mhm.
actually, making that leap to actually doing it and being able to sort of do it in a way that, kind of satisfies what you're trying to get at was always really intimidating. And when it came to lockdown, and I would always try, like I kept bringing people to my really freezing studio in Hove after I graduated and like forcing them to sit for me and then presenting them with like the worst portraits. Um, but when it came to the lockdown, it was just me and Genty in our studio flat. And I I kind of, I guess it was a great opportunity to sort of practice and to sort of start really trying to be fearless when it comes to approaching that I don't know what's it called when you have like an obstacle,
Hmm.
which was just like a fear. So yeah, so I did this one from life, and it was, yeah, basically the first portrait I'd done from life, which I sort of actually felt quite good about. And it kind of simultaneously combined with using soft pastels for the first time. And I think for ages I'd like sort of really I'd forgotten really how to use paint properly. And hence all the confusion when it came to trying out strange materials together. And yeah, so I suddenly used um, and so I suddenly used, yeah, these soft pastels, which are, I use the Sennelier ones. I still don't know. Is that how you say it? Sennelier?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So I use those, and they're so like such high pigment, such like great um texture, like really dry, really matte kind of texture. And all the colors in the box are just like so equally beautiful in their own right that but you also have like a limited selection of colors. So you kind of, I found that I was being forced to use like the closest color I could find to the one that I was seeing. And, but because they all happen to be such great, wonderful colors, it didn't really matter which ones you used together. They would
Hmm.
kind of work, it would be harmonious. And so that really, I think, helped me get back into thinking about using paint again. But yeah, so I applied it in these like patches. Um, And yeah, it just helped me sort of break through something. And I suddenly just felt much more confident and excited about working with portraits.
Hmm. And with the interaction with the sitter, is there a lot of preparation in coming up with a pose for you or coming up with a composition? Are you going through multiple studies beforehand, or are these going sort of fresh straight onto the calico?
So, well, with I think initially, so this first one of Genti, that was just him watching football on his phone. And so he was actually just sitting like that. Like I basically found him in that pose and I was like, do you mind if you just like stay there and I'll paint you really quickly? And And I feel like with the other two, and like then following on, I guess my mistake or my next obstacle was trying to basically find myself or find a person in a situation that felt really just interesting and nice to paint. And so I kind of went through a strange phase of trying to kind of artificially like get that together. So if someone would come around to sit for a portrait and we would spend like 3 hours just talking and I would just be doing like sketching relentlessly and it I mean it kind of worked and then we would basically find a pose and it would like sort of naturally come about
Okay.
um but it was a bit of a strange process for like both people I think and it kind of worked. I mean it meant we got to know each other in that time and then I would yeah do the lines from life and then I would basically finish it from a photo. So most of,
Okay. So
mm,
so the color shapes are going in afterwards after the sitters left.
yeah, yeah. That was again, like I think because do you know what I mean? Like if you do like a painting that you feel really good about or a piece you feel really good about, it somehow came about and it was kind of charged by like adrenaline and excitement and some and like often novelty. And so um I could kind of do that with this first one. But then when it came to trying to repeat that, I found that I didn't actually quite have that same energy to kind of like keep it going.
Mhm.
And so and also with the nerves of having the other person there, and the kind of would for some reason find that other presence like quite intimidating. It later became something that was it kind of actually provided some of that energy.
Okay.
But yeah, at the time I was just too scared. I was too nervous. So I finished it from a photo.
Should we click through to the next image?
Sure, yeah.
So, because this now feels really quite different visually. Like, what? So, what's going on here in these three paintings?
So I think so this first one on again, this first one on the left, this was a self-portrait that I did, and I kind of made it with the intention of wanting to apply for the show. This was my submission for the Sky Arts show.
I
And
see.
so I so that's it's kind of it's quite big. Well, it's basically it's just under life size really. It's like a big bit of paper. And yeah, I had just been doing like lots of little commissions and doing lots of portraits with this kind of like on calico thing with the soft pastels. And I guess I was burning through that process, and it was becoming repetitive, and it was sort of losing significance or meaning or something. I don't know, whatever it was about it that was working. It just I was trying to discover that thing again, and I just couldn't. It was losing momentum, and I was getting really tired of it actually. But because I was doing quite a few commissions, you kind of have to get them done. And it became, I mean, it was a good exercise, and it was actually it ended up being a really important phase. But I think I just got tired of using the soft pastels or trying to get the soft pastels to do this thing that I'd like forgotten how to do. And
Mhm.
so then out of frustration, I just like got some oil paints out and remembered how to use oil paint.
But
Um,
using the soft pastel must have informed then how you're putting the paint down. Because you've got these very kind of clear, deliberate blocks of color that you're applying. They almost kind of feel like they could be big shapes of pastel, but you
mm,
you're not sort of faffing around with a complicated mix. Is sort of putting these very bold shapes down.
yeah, and yeah, for sure, that's something that really like liberated me when it came to painting, because I think I used to try and be far too fussy. I didn't even really know what I was trying to get at, but I was trying to get at something, and I think the soft pastels just helped. It was like a nice in-between phase. So whenever I do any teaching, we always do a bit of stuff with soft pastels. It's really, I find, and people tend to really enjoy it as well. It's lots of fun.
You leave a lot of breathing room for the eye in your paintings and your pastels. Like the is it hard to know when to stop? I mean, I always feel it is, but do you get an instinct for when you need to stop and just leave the paper as it is or the calico?
I mean, yes. And again, I think it's that thing of like the more like kind of conscious or even self-conscious you become of what you're actually doing, it gets difficult to sort of know what's the right or the wrong thing to do. And I think with, yeah, leaving things out or putting things in, um, yeah, I think I sometimes I'm like, you're doing too much, like there's no need to, and the painting can then get really heavy and saturated, and it loses something about it that maybe felt quite interesting before. But then equally, there are times when I push through the urge to leave, to make a very lightly touched portrait. And I kind of push through that with this kind of like bolshy, I don't know, energy. And it becomes like actually really much feels much more interesting, and there's like a lot more going on there. It becomes like just a heavier, like denser kind of mood. Um, and that's something that I really appreciate and like as well. So I feel like I kind of bounce between the two at the moment, definitely. It's kind of um yeah. So in terms of knowing when and where to leave it, it's always I suppose it's always it could, I don't know. I might have an intention to start off a certain way, but then I get kind of convinced um yeah, convinced to sort of keep it going or to or to draw back a bit.
And I guess for the sky portrait artist format, you have it taken away from you at the end of the time anyway, don't you? So you're working within a limited time frame.
Exactly. Yeah. So you don't, you can't really, that, yeah, that time limit is really, well, any kind of, yeah, challenging, but also it makes you do something that maybe you wouldn't have done otherwise. And that just kind of like what we were saying about the limits around what's sort of okay and not okay to study or to practice. It just makes you see, it makes you find like a new pocket of something which will be information for something.
Tell me a bit more about the central painting and the right hand painting.
So, yeah, so the one in the middle, this is, was really lucky and I got to paint Elizabeth Day, in my first heat of taking part in the show. And, yeah, again, like I was quite new to, painting in oils or like using oils again. Um, and again, I was still sort of trying to find like what worked in a portrait. And something about the confines of that competition helped to produce something that felt like it was good. So, or going in a direction that felt good. Um, yeah, I think like the urgency of that environment was really helpful. It was quite hard and stressful, but it was like ultimately like so helpful for my practice. And yeah, so that's what I try and say to people when they're wanting to apply and take part, but they feel too nervous.
Hmm.
Um, it's just like you'll get something out of it no matter what happens. I think.
Should I click through to the next slide?
Sure.
Because does this then
Um,
take us elsewhere?
yeah, so I guess this was like this was a little bit after this was a couple of years ago.
Hmm.
Um, and it was sort of yeah, I guess trying to move back into, well, it was more just like trying to explore like that, leaving things out, putting things in, or rather leaning in with just the kind of the information that comes to the surface and feels important, or more important, or kind of uh like what's the word? I don't know. But the stuff that kind of comes up first
Hmm.
and just going with that. And so this is the kind of thing where it's like, oh, it would have been so interesting to take this much further. Um and but also I feel like there's really something for me in um keeping it sort of, I don't know, held back um and kind of tentative.
Hmm.
So yeah, I guess like now I just move kind of between this and the piece that we were just looking at. So like more filled in, more bodied, more kind of literal, I suppose. But this to me, this is also quite literal because it is actually just what's in front of me. It's the person in front of me and the kind of scene. But it's just and it's all like rooted in it's all kind of like the truth of what's there. It's
Hmm.
just little parts of it's almost like the amount of information you can cope with maybe in the moment. Um,
Okay.
and it's maybe, yeah, I guess like I quite like, you have all these ideas of projects that you're going to do and like never do. I have like an idea of a project of doing like loads of these, like quite big, and to focus on, instead of focusing on what feels important, to focus on maybe what doesn't feel so important,
Hmm.
or something like that. Um, but yeah, we'll see if that ever.
I wonder as well, just asking about the unclothed figure as a subject.
Mm,
Is there a distinction you draw between, say, uh, like an unclothed portrait that is a portrait, but where the sitter is unclothed, like a kind of
mm,
a nude as a subject, that maybe sort of speaks to a wider history of painting the unclothed figure, but perhaps isn't a portrait, and a life drawing. Are there distinctions between those things for you, or are they all just part of the same subject matter?
It's quite a challenging question, Jake.
Sorry,
I
yeah,
mean,
I sprung that on you.
that's completely fine.
In 3 minutes, please, Morag.
I don't really know. I mean, well, okay, I feel like there are for sure differences between a situation that where it is a life drawing, because that is often in a class and you're with other people and other artists and you're all kind of practicing something, I suppose. Um, but there is something about that kind of draft stage of working that does really appeal to me, and I do want to kind of bring along into, I guess, all of the work that I focus on. It's almost like I don't want to leave that behind because I value it so much. And I feel like it is in itself a worthy um way to do things. Um, yeah. But in terms of like a clothed portrait or an unclothed portrait or a nude, yeah, I mean, it does get complicated, doesn't it? I feel like I used to kind of tell myself that I felt I kind of viewed things in like a very sort of in a like kind of naive, like kind of like almost sexless kind of way.
Mhm,
And so because that was where I was coming from, that it didn't really come into it. But
mhm.
I do feel that that is more of a it's not that it's not true, but I do feel like there's that doesn't answer like the kind of dilemma or the situation that sort of needs answering.
Okay.
Um, and I guess I'm still working on it. I'm still thinking about it.
Mhm.
Um, what do you think? Just to flip it around.
Oh, I think just hearing your answer is great because I think I guess your work is a constant exploration of what it means to be a person and what it means to represent a person, and that may be a clothed person or an unclothed person. I always struggle because I'm working so closely with people that are involved in life drawing that I do sort of forget that it's unusual sometimes for people to be seeing an unclothed figure. And it
Mhm.
can be interesting when people question why you would paint an unclothed person.
Yeah.
Why one would at all. And for me, that seems like, there are several obvious answers to it, but maybe they're not obvious at all. But I think in a portrait, I'm always fascinated by um, why one might make a choice to paint someone in particular clothes or in a particular pose or a context. And I guess
Mhm.
being unclothed is a condition of being that's relevant to the presentation of a person. So it's just interesting
Mhm.
to hear your answer, even if it's a series of further questions.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm glad. I mean, yeah, well, I suppose another thought is that I guess there's a kind of a strangeness or like a kind of a more of a dilemma when it comes to, oh, I'm gonna do a portrait and like where should that portrait be? Is that important? Like, does that even come into it? Like, is it just about the person? And sort of just having like no clothes in a way, sort of it it just removes some of that. It just removes some of that thing,
Mhm.
um, some of that kind of conscious thinking into like, yeah. But again, yeah, there's probably more to it than that. But mm, it's an interesting conversation for sure. I'm glad people are talking about it.
Well, thank you for contributing to that conversation as well. Um, you can just tell me you don't want to answer a question if you want. Um, may I switch on to the next image?
Oh. Okay. So again, I was like, I don't want to include these, but I think I should because
Okay.
so this is basically every now and again I'll just yeah, I'll get quite confused about what a portrait is, like, and what it should be. And I'll just go down like some tangent where I'm trying to basically inject like a bit of a narrative into a figurative painting rather than it just being a straight portrait from life. Um, and all the kind of things that happen through doing that. Um, and with these, like I don't think they really worked. I feel like there's maybe something there that could be like pursued later on in like a better or in a different way that might be more successful or just to kind of do more of open up more of a thing. Um, but basically, I was trying to because I guess in my work I think a lot about you know, what people are like, and often it's like less a portrait of the person and it's more of just like a study feels like a strange word, but I guess that is what it is, like a study of just what we are like as people, like in a bigger way.
Mhm.
And so for that those kinds of reasons, I really love like the Greek myths in the sense that they talk, you know, they sort of basically uh present in these different stories things that you're going to come across one day um in like your own version of whatever that ends up being, like these kind of like inevitable challenges or these sort of personalities and these kinds of situations that humans or people sort of ends up creating and walking into and trying to avoid, but you know, like a fate, like a prophecy or something. And so I was trying to like I was trying to make some paintings that sort of directly took from maybe situations that I could see in my life that I could link to metaphors in the myths.
Mhm.
Um, so, but they're really, really vague. Like they're actually quite. I think that's why maybe it didn't work so well. But so this first one with the man sitting on the chair on the phone and the little cat playing. This was this was sort of I was thinking about the myth of Daedalus and Icarus. And I was trying to think about, oh, what is it in that myth that kind of stands out to me? Because like it will sort of maybe mean different things to different, or different things will feel significant for different people. And I was like, okay, to me, when I think about that story, I think about so the story is like Daedalus makes the wings and then they escape, but then Icarus flies too close to the sun and they melt and he falls and he dies. Um, and I guess I was kind of thinking of that I saw it as like someone, the Daedalus, with quite a big and quite a serious responsibility to sort of get him and his son to safety or to rescue them, and not quite being able to fulfill that responsibility for external reasons that are basically like beyond somebody's control. In this case, his son's kind of, I don't know, vitality and his like youth and his just exhilaration of flying and being free. Um, and like, I mean, I don't have children myself, but I can imagine that this is a thing that like parents experience where they can't quite, there's a certain point that they can protect their children, but they can't. And, you know, inevitably there's going to be a time when they can't. And so I was kind of seeing it like that. And then I was really trying to find a thing in my life that I could kind of compare it to. And I just kind of came up with this like feeling unable to bear like a responsibility. And so this is just like a person sort of struggling to, you know, like a working person today, like the cost of living crisis and like things are quite tough. And like lots of my friends are like between the ages of like 30 and 50 and live in house shares and maybe they have a cat. Um, they're trying to kind of form a sense of individuality and like a lifestyle, but it's not so easy because of how things are at the moment. I guess especially for creative people working in the creative field. So that's what that was about. Um, and yeah, I feel like it was a tangent, and maybe it's something I'd like to revisit at some point. But it, I think my work feels better when, or I feel more comfortable making work that's sort of painting someone from life, ultimately, when it comes down to it.
And if you're working on an idea like that, do you have an idea of who you want to represent that character in your mind, or is that sort of um, something that happens more organically through having certain sitters to work with?
I think with it will end up being, yeah, more of like a person who can just be that role rather than like, oh, this would really fit this person. But that would be an interesting way to do it, I think, to actually find specific people and be like, you actually, to me, kind of represent this a little bit. Um, yeah. No, in this case, it was like just in a way, it could have been anyone.
Right. And the significance of cats, like, do you have a cat? You have a cat. Do you have a cat?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've got two cats. So
yeah,
those are my cats.
they are your cats. Yeah.
Um, yeah, and so I guess the cats will in the way I was thinking, like the cats kind of represented innocence and responsibility.
Hmm.
Yeah, and it's this kind of like unawareness of the kind of seriousness of things for the carer, the owner. Yeah.
And they inject something very different into the kind of picture plane as well, because the
Mm.
stillness of human sitters in the previous paintings can reflect an actual sitting, but this is capturing a moment of action and a moment of movement. Like, I mean, with the technical side of actually tackling the subject of a cat, is is that something you're interested in pursuing further as well? Because I think there's, particularly in the first painting, like there's such a wonderful kind of energy and cat-like quality in that pounce, as well as having all of the kind of depth of thinking behind it.
I mean, yeah, it's it's something that I guess I think I maybe need to find myself doing it accidentally or something in that way where it can, because I think trying to, maybe the problem that happened here was like just trying to sort of arrange it too much and finding, but yeah, I love the idea of painting things in motion, and like I love the idea of painting, like street scenes or like people. I mean, when I was at uni, I did lots of paintings of like movement and people kind of moving in crowds and people falling over and things like that. Um, so the movement thing, yeah, definitely. I did. It felt much easier to paint the cat here than it did the rest of it. Yeah.
Thank you. Could I switch on to the next slide?
Sure.
So tell me about what's going on here. We've got our cats back as well.
Yeah, so I think these definitely came after making those like Greek myth paintings. And yeah, it was just suddenly like, oh, this suddenly finding it possible to include the background or like the sofa or the thing that someone's sitting on and all the things that also happen to be on the sofa, like including the cats. Whereas before I used to kind of feel, I guess probably just a bit overwhelmed by all of that and like unsure how to kind of put that into a visual language. Whereas painting the person just came so much more naturally. Um, so yeah, so this felt really fun and really exciting when I made these paintings because it felt like being liberated from something. Like when you're with your practice, you might kind of find that you're starting to balance all of these. It almost becomes a bit, oh my God, what's the word? You start to have all of these things in place and you feel like you have to obey them to kind of get the results or to, yeah, and it becomes this really rickety pile of stuff that sometimes you realize that you don't actually need to do any of that anymore. And it's just limiting you rather than like ensuring going in a good direction. I wish I could think of the word I meant. Would have explained it a bit better. Anyway, um, but yeah. But with these pieces also, there is something about just the I guess the joy of painting all of the kind of little pieces of color that you find on the body, on the nude figure. Going back to the nude thing.
Do you find it easy to see that color? Because I know in conversations with students in the past, some people struggle to see the variety of color in skin. Some people see it more readily. Like, are you working to find this nuance? Because you've got an amazing range of colors that you're tugging out of the surface of skin.
Well, I suppose, yeah, maybe it used to feel more challenging, but maybe because the more that I'm focusing on it and doing it, like the easier it starts to feel. Um, I mean, when I'm looking at someone, yeah, initially everything just looks almost like this. You, in a way, you could just take one color and like that would be enough. But because the way that I'm working, um, with this kind of thing of just like looking at the whole image and then letting like some information kind of come up and kind of paying attention to these little pieces of information, and they all have their, so like if someone has like a little patch on their cheek, which is in the light in a caught in a certain way, like it's a little patch of pink or something. I guess the way I approach things is to try and match that exact shade of pink that I can see on my palette as close as I can get it, and then to paint it on in that exact shape that I can see.
Mhm,
Um, Almost like you could peel it off, um, or stick it on like a sticker. And so through that kind of way of working, it seems to suddenly become very rainbow-like. But I also think that really is the case. Like the more you look, the more you're going to see.
mhm,
And something about this is when it starts to feel quite nice because you get this kind of rainbow um illusion. You get this rainbow kind of like visual thing going on. But the more you add in, the less the less rainbow it feels.
mhm.
It all starts to kind of merge into one and it feels more, yeah, yeah. So that's another reason for keeping it minimal.
Is it fair to say in these paintings as well that you've applied that attentive looking to skin and then almost kind of done the opposite with the shapes of fabric and represented a more unified palette for the fabric
Mm.
to frame that? Is that would that be true to say?
Yeah, yeah, totally. Because and in that sense, I guess like the thinking is it just highlight it it doesn't take away from those like carefully put in colors.
Hmm.
Um I think yeah, again it's something to kind of try out, but doing sort of maybe the person like that and then also doing the sofa like that, but then maybe having some cushions painted in all the way, like it to me it just like starts to like scramble my mind and I'm like that doesn't work. But I think that's just like a weird limit that I have on myself, and it will probably change. And I'll
Hmm.
probably find a way for it to make it feel right.
Thank you. Um, could I move on to the next slide?
Oh, let's do it. Oh yeah, so I guess like a similar kind of thing. I mean, I think
Mhm.
from this point onwards, like all of the work like is pretty similar. It's kind of settled into like a bit of a rhythm and a momentum. And this is basically how I'm working today.
And it's these landscape compositions of portraits that I really love. Like, what got you
Yeah.
settled on that?
I think it's I just love painting or drawing the full figure lying down. There's just something about it that is I just can't stop doing that and or wanting to do that. Um, I'm not really sure why. I don't really sometimes I think I know why and then I just forget about it immediately. I don't know. I guess it's maybe it's just like a joy of painting thing, like a joy of drawing. Um, but maybe there's also something in, like somebody lying down, someone resting. It's quite intimate. It's quite you wouldn't really normally do that. And like it's really hot in the summer and everyone's lying down on the grass and it feels quite nice and casual and everyone sort of like chills out a bit.
Hmm.
Um, Whereas usually it's understandably much more expected to be kind of put together. Um, and I guess something about painting people's portraits, it does that already. It almost like it undresses people like, you know, metaphorically, I suppose, in the sense that people sit for a portrait and um it does feel like you're entering this like very intimate space and that kind of window of expression day to day emotionally is, yeah, understandably again, but like quite narrow. And I think people tend to, or I find that people tend to be quite ready to sort of put that down and to be quite vulnerable and just to be open. And so I suppose this lying down thing, it just kind of like moves more into that. It leans into that even more.
Thank you. Um, and we'll have just thinking about the sort of intimacy, having two figures in the composition.
Mm.
Tell me about this painting.
So this is these are my friends Jonathan and Athena, and I met them at a residency, NG Art Creator Residency, run by Nikki in the south of France, which was really wonderful. And yeah, and these guys just happened to be there, and they're just like such great people. They're both artists, they're engaged. Um, and yeah, I know we just became really good friends, and they just have this like real enthusiasm for like everything. And they were so down for sitting for a portrait, which was really nice. I was like trying to be way too polite about asking them, but they were just like getting on the sofa and like making it happen before I even had like the paper out. So it was really nice. And I think that's maybe partly why I felt like I could get so detailed with it, because there was this like real willingness from them um to be there and to be painted together. So yeah, and also because I think I just loved them so much. Um, I I didn't feel, um, I almost wanted to work on that painting for longer than I normally would. So it has like a lot of affection. I feel this painting feels very affectionate,
Hmm.
and there's also this affection and this closeness between them.
Wonderful. But is it a difficult conversation for you sometimes to ask somebody to sit, or are you now inundated with potential sitters all the time?
It definitely feels easier to ask people to sit now. And I think that's because maybe, I don't know, people feel a bit happier about the work that happens. But no, I find that especially with my friends and my family, because that they tend to be the people who I ask to sit,
Hmm.
um, they are always very happy, or rather, they're always very generous with their time. But essentially, that's kind of what you're asking people for at the end of the day. You're asking them for their time, and that's quite precious for people. And so yeah, sometimes, but I just try to, I just always say like, I hope you know that you can say no. Like you don't always have to say yes. And sometimes, if they can, they can. And if they can't, they can't. And that's fine. But yeah, I can't make my work without, unless people sit for me. So the sometimes,
And you're always working from life now.
yeah, yeah, always initially. So I kind of do a bit of a halfway thing where I'll do a sitting from life and then I'll kind of finish it off from a photo.
Mhm.
But it feels very important to have, it feels actually essential to have that first sitting from life. It would be nice to get around that because then I think I'll be able to make more work. But it seems to work only from life. So yeah, that's when it all seems to happen.
Thank you. I'm going to click on to the next as well, if I may. And these are pretty big pieces of work, right?
These are quite big. Yeah, these are, I think the last one was a similar size. This is 100 by 200 centimeters. And this one's on canvas now. So I found my way back onto canvas and like made it make sense. Because for a long time it was just I only really could figure out how to use paint on paper, which was
Mhm.
really nice. And I love working on paper still, but I'm glad that I've been able to use canvas again. Um, Essentially doing just like the same thing.
And at the moment, you're represented by a gallery, you're involved in lots of exhibitions. Like, do you have, are you taking lots of commissions for your work, or are you mostly making work to exhibit in solo shows like your show last year?
So I mean, recently, yeah, I've been doing some commissions. I do maybe a few commissions a year at the moment, and which is a really, really nice, and they tend to be quite large scale, like this one. So that's a really lovely amount to be working with, and I think it means they get the kind of energy and the attention that they deserve, and um, it doesn't because at the end of the day, it's like it really is like people that you're working with, and so you want each interaction to be, um, have.
Hã? A paleta de cores. Que legal, pensei que tu ia ficar de cara com a quantidade, né?
Não, eu tô. Accidental unmuting there. You're muted at the moment as well, Morag. Apologies. I'll just give you the option to unmute there.
I was
There
like,
you go.
is
Authentically
that?
live. No worries.
I thought it was just you at first. Anyway, um, uh, but yeah, no. So I do a few commissions, which is really lovely and not too overwhelming in terms of like, being able to produce like a kind of a piece that like feels worthy of the commission. And then the rest of the time, yeah, I get to focus on sort of making my own, basically the same paintings, but ones that I sort of make happen myself. And yeah, and I get to work with this really wonderful gallery in London, and we and do exhibitions and group shows and go to art fairs and stuff. So there's a really nice routine actually now in my life, like a kind of structure, um, and deadlines of when I need to have some paintings ready for. So that helps, just it keeps me a little bit organized and motivated as well,
Mhm.
which is really nice.
Yeah, how do you find that sort of being motivated to make work in the studio? Do you have we were talking about kind of ritual and sort of just a schedule, a pattern. Do you have a kind of set way of working to get yourself motivated?
I mean, yeah, I guess so. I mean, I will kind of I guess yeah, I'll put on some nice music, some like chilled music. There's this really great playlist on Spotify which is called like Deep Listening or something, and it's just really just such great music. So I put on something like that, and then yeah, I mean, often the painting will start with the person there who I'm painting. So usually, yeah, it starts with a sitting, and that so I have like I tend to have like maybe like 3 or 4 sittings kind of scheduled in per month. And that sort of, I guess, my routine, I mean, I feel like it's a stretch to call it a routine, but like a routine, some kind of something builds around those sittings. And that's kind of how the work happens. Um, so yeah, but I don't really, in terms of day to day, and if I'm just going to be finishing off a painting, um, I guess I usually paint like in the afternoon. Like I wish I could get straight to things in the morning, but I kind of just have like a lazy morning, like doing nothing basically, and then I'll start painting in the afternoon for a few hours.
Great to hear. Um, we've had some questions from people, but I think that you've answered everything kind of just through our conversation. So I'll just invite everyone that's here listening to add in any questions. If you wanted to ask any questions in the chat, Gemini, I hope your question about mediums has already been answered, but do correct me in the same, Charles, for colours. So Morag, if it's right, I'll just click through to this image here. Tell me about what's going on here.
So, I mean, again, I guess it's just trying out that difference in how far do you want to take the information. That's like how in depth do you want to go with what you're seeing, or with, I guess, with what I'm looking at. And sort of, yeah, I guess I find it quite liberating that you can bring like an image about with a little amount of information, and it's still sort of legible and it translates. And I think that is often how, I guess, we see things. We'll kind of get a taste of something or just a touch of information. And you know, might just catch like the edge of a story, but you kind of get enough information for it to kind of color your understanding. And so we're all walking around with these like partial understandings of like everything. And I guess I quite enjoy being able to do that in a painting, but for it to still come through. And yeah, so I just saw that. So this is on paper. This is oils on paper, and the paper's not primed. The paper that I use is printmaking paper. So it's designed to work with oils or oil-based paint or oil-based ink. And it's called Okawara paper, but there are like so many this is a Japanese paper. There are lots and lots of papers that like this one's quite thin, but you can get really thick ones, you can get even thinner ones that can handle oil paint. So yeah, if you're wanting to use oils on paper, it's a really nice one to work with. And then I saw someone just said like, who would you want to paint from art history? I don't know. Maybe someone like a writer, like someone like I don't know why Oscar Wilde is coming to mind right now. Maybe someone like Oscar Wilde would have been great to paint. And then oh, I just missed that one.
Oh, Gemini's asked whether you keep a sketchbook with studies of people that you've met.
Okay. No, I don't. And I really feel like I'm missing out on something because it just doesn't seem to be in my nature to work in a sketchbook. I have tried like so many times. I'm always buying them, but I never get them out. I think because I like to use paint and pastel, it feels just a bit fiddly to I mean, that's actually completely not true. If I go to a live drawing class, I'll take a sketchbook and I'll use some oil paint and some pastel in there. Yeah.
Are you doing that often at the moment?
I did not for a while, not for a few months actually. It's so weird the way time just like goes really quickly. It's something that I really like to do, and I go to the Bee's Mouth and do it on Tuesdays. Sorry, Jake. You've got all these like wonderful
The
classes.
Bee's Mouth is a lovely class.
And of course, I go to
The
the ones
more
with
life drawing, the better. There's no, yeah. It's all good.
It's the one that I first went to, like when I was a teenager, and I remember feeling really welcome there. And I think that's a really nice thing about live drawing, is like everyone is welcome. I think as a teenager, you always expect adults to be like, "What's this teenager doing here?" But everyone was so friendly and welcoming. It's such a lovely environment.
So how old were you when you first went life drawing?
Well, I guess I must have been 18 by then because it's a pub. But yeah, I remember it was, yeah, when I was at Basvic. I went to College here in Brighton. Yeah. What about you? Do you remember your first life drawing class, Jake? It must
I
have been
was I was
incredible.
14 when I first went life drawing, and I sort of
Oh,
had
no.
special permission to go in and go to the class. And like you say, you know, you sort of feel like you're in this adult space. But
Mm.
what's really lovely is that everyone's really supportive and welcoming, and yeah, and it was an incredibly positive experience.
Ah, that's so nice to hear. Yeah, that sounds exactly like what it was like when I went. Um, yeah.
Ellen's asked whether there's a particular artist, living or dead, who is a great inspiration to you.
This is like that. Yeah, I mean, definitely. I'm just, oh my God, what I can't even think right. So many. I can't think of any right now for some weird reason. Greatest inspiration. Um, okay, well, I think like Giacometti is probably the biggest inspiration if I had to bring it down to one person. I think because I just maybe he was the first um person whose work that I saw who was maybe doing portraits a little bit differently and in a way that really resonated for me. Um, like I found them to be quite dark and quite um just really quite strange, but um just really compelling and really, yeah, exciting because yeah, something about um I don't know, the colors that he was using and like the way he was putting paint down like in a really intense way just really appealed to me. Yeah.
So Giacometti's paintings particularly.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
And just with this next slide, just think about paring things down. These are prints, monoprints, is that right?
These are, yeah, these are some, yeah, that's right, some monotypes. I, yeah, well, so the gallery that I'm with, Ruby, who's head of editions, she really got me into working on monotype. She was like, I think this is something that you'd really enjoy,
Mhm.
and could be like a really nice thing next to your practice. And she was so right. Like I love like working with this medium. You just do loads of paintings really fast and it's so weird, but something about printing them onto paper just brings this new, it like seals the painting. I don't know. I like it's so mysterious. Like I don't really know what it is about the printing side of things that makes it feel so complete, but it just does. And I love that. Is this something you've done much of, Jake? Mono prints or making monotypes?
Oh,
Or
yes, and I find it really exciting, but I often neglect printmaking, unfortunately. But I completely agree that there's something about putting a plate through a press that finishes it all. And I guess because it flips the image as well, then
Mm.
you get to see it a little bit fresh then as well when it
Yeah.
rolls out the other end.
That yeah, you're right. That's probably got like a huge amount to do with it. It makes me think of Leora Chiprut, like because she has a lot of printmaking. Well, her practice is like
Mhm.
yeah, it's a lot based in printmaking, and she said something about it being like in a mirror world, the printed image, which I thought was very special.
Yes, of course, that's a wonderful way of phrasing it. And so that's something that you've been doing more recently?
Yeah, that's something I've been doing more in the last year or so.
Mhm.
Um, but it's really, I mean, I also just love like the scale because it can be something so small or something kind of medium size. Like I've always struggled to work on like a medium scale. Like it's always either very little or pretty big.
Mhm.
And these are kind of A1 size, I think. So they feel like a nice mid range to work on, but it's still sort of, I don't know, it works for me. It feels sort of feels good. Having said that, I'm getting all this like these ambitions to do some giant monotypes. Um,
Ah, okay. That's exciting.
I think
How
it's
how
cool.
big? How big would you go?
Well, the one in Woolwich is like can have such a mass. I don't know how big exactly, but like A0 kind of thing, maybe bigger. Um, yeah, maybe even the next one up from A0. Yeah. So maybe like a meter by a meter and a half, something like that. Um, yeah, that would be so fun.
I would be excited to see that. Do tell me about this image. I'm conscious of time, so I don't want to eat into your time too much. So we are
Mm.
coming close to the end.
Um, oh, I mean, no worries, but likewise, of course. Okay, well, really quickly, I guess it's just playing, just trying out different sort of ways of putting the paint down. Like here, all the paint is just really thin and kind of see-through.
Mhm.
And I think I was wanting to, I was just wanting to put a lot of paint down, at least on the like sofa area. Um, but for it to feel light and delicate. Because it was such a sunny day. This is Miles, by the way. I don't know if you can
Yes,
tell.
lovely
Yeah,
Miles.
we had so much fun. I mean, we basically spent the whole time smoking rollies by the window, but we did a fair amount of sitting as well. I think, yeah.
Uh-huh. And
Um,
that's the important work that orbits the actual process of painting, the human side of it.
Definitely. Yeah, we had a great time. Um, and it was during the summer, and it was, we had that like endless summer of like really hot sunny days. It was sort of then, and I think something about that light, I wanted to uh be truthful to that. So yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And with that lightness, is that the dilution of paint, or is that just using a lighter mix or a lighter brush stroke?
That is diluting the paint like quite a bit. So um yeah, I've started using that Michael Harding miracle medium, so it's not too toxic. So I'm not now like struggling to breathe when I'm doing painting in this way. Um yeah. Yeah, so it's basically just painting with water. It feels like almost like, well, watercolors in a way.
Thank you. Um, and
Um,
yeah, sorry, go on.
yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah, another portrait. Um, and yeah, and working more heavily with the paint.
Mhm.
So I guess, yeah, when you turn up to the studio and you're in a different kind of mood and you have like a different way of wanting to do things, I guess it's just like that shows up in the way that you start to use the paint. So this one was a bit heavier.
It's a really exciting variety of brush marks going on in all of that. The same here, this jumper is amazing.
Oh my God, yeah, that's my friend Sasha, and she has a great wardrobe. And she always wears really great things for when she sits for me. I paint her all the time now. She sits for me so often, which I'm so grateful for. I really love painting her. Yeah, and these are both on paper. And so this one on the left is a self-portrait actually. And the paint, I wanted again that thing to be much lighter. And then the one of Sasha is just a little bit heavier, like a bit thicker.
Mhm. And if it's a self-portrait, is that from a mirror or from a photograph?
So that one was from a photograph. I mean, I was in the mirror and I
Mhm.
was trying and I just, oh my God, this is like my next thing to like try and accomplish. I don't know, like painting from the mirror is so hard. Um, I mean, I find self-portraits quite challenging in general. Um, and I don't know if that's because working from the mirror, I find it to be so difficult or if it's some kind of psychological thing. But I just, yeah. But I was in quite a particular mood that day and I was, yeah, looking in the mirror and then I kind of tried, I did a bit of the outline and then ultimately I just took a photo. Which always feels a bit weird. I don't know. I think
Mhm.
again, it feels I struggle with like it feeling too orchestrated. Um, but yeah. And then these are on paper again.
It's great to see the dual pose. And is this our finishing image?
This is the last slide. Yeah. This is like the I did this painting quite recently and it's
Mhm.
really exciting because it's going to Miami to be in the Untitled Fair there for Miami Art Week um with the gallery with Rhodes. And yeah, so this painting is called Under Autumn Clothes and again it's my friends Ellie and Paul. Yeah. It's quite big. I was trying to do like an over life-size thing with it.
Okay, so large scale painting and large scale monotype we can expect to see in the near
Yeah,
future.
this is what's coming up. Yeah.
Fantastic. Um, my apologies for overrunning a little, and to everyone whose questions we've had to miss. Morag, thank you so much. This has been such an amazing insight.
Oh, thanks, Jake. It's been so lovely chatting. And it's been lovely to meet you as well. This is the first time we've met in real life. So yeah,
I
thank you.
know. And I feel like you're even in a sort of similar position to some of the photographs I've seen of you. So, it's it's almost like you've been like an animated version of your image self. Um, well, thank you. I'm going to take you off screen for a mo and just say, yeah, a double big thank you to Morag for joining us and to all of you for joining along. Apologies for everyone whose questions we weren't able to ask, but do keep up with Morag's work. Is Instagram the best way to watch what you're doing, Morag, or do you have a newsletter that people should join or anything like that?
I do, yeah, so Instagram is kind of the place, but I do from time to time send out a newsletter just with like things that are happening. And that's on I have a website, and on the website you can, if you would like to, you can drop in your email and be added to that.
Wonderful, thank you. I've just
Thanks.
popped a link to that in the chat there, everybody, as well. We will put a recording of this session up on our YouTube, so that will be coming up in the next few days. And we will have a December etc. talk. The theme and the speaker has not yet been announced, but we will have that very soon for you. So we are still expecting to have a December talk. And then we've got a really exciting program for next year as well. Morag, it's been an absolute delight. Thank you so much. And
Thank
I hope you've
you.
got a lovely, restful evening ahead and an exciting weekend of painting as well.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Morag, and thank you.